All right, I want to do a video on financial contagion. This is obviously on my mind because of what's been going on the past couple of weeks with specific banks that are lending to involved in a specific subsector of the economy. So we're talking about Silvergate Bank, Signature Bank, Silicon Valley Bank. These are different banks that are in different degrees of financial distress. And what I want to do is walk through some examples of how to think about contagion and how to think about why the ripple effects of these seem to be worse than they really should be. So, and what I want to do is just give a simple example of just like if you owned a small business in a town, like you were a baker in a town, and if you discovered that one of your primary suppliers was, like, let's say your flour supplier was experiencing financial distress, what would you do, right? Well, the first thing is you would find another flour supplier just in case this company just ceased operations and was liquidated, right? So the first thing I would do is try to find other flour suppliers, or already I would want to have been diversified away from this single supplier, right? Secondly, I might actually counterintuitively ask them to deliver more flour if the supplier who's in distress, because I don't want to be cut off from a primary raw material for my business, right? If I can't get flour, I can't bake things, I can't make any money, right? And then I'm in distress. So this is on the supplier side. Now, also you could think about if you own a bakery, and let's say you have a restaurant customer who buys a lot of product from you, and say it's 20% of your revenues, like a really, really big volume customer, and you realize or you learn that there's rumors that this restaurant is in financial distress. So what would you do then? Well, I think, again, you would try to find other customers. Of course, you can't really do that maybe in the very short run. You also might want to ask for more stringent payment terms from this large customer. So, a lot of times businesses will offer the product, but then, they expect to get paid, say, 60 days later or 90 days later, or, some payment that happens in arrears. And if I knew this restaurant was in distress, I might actually demand them to pay up on whatever receivables I have with them, or I might ask them to pay up front before I make new deliveries to them. And why would I do that? Well, if I'm selling them baked goods, and they declare bankruptcy spontaneously, all of a sudden I might have 30 days worth of product that I sold to them, and again, as a large customer, and I may not get paid, right? Or I may not get paid for a number of months before the bankruptcy is resolved, and I end up being in line with all the other creditors. So this is sort of where you get this interconnectedness, and this is a simple, obvious example, but in the banking world, there is much, much more interconnectedness. It's sort of, you can think of examples like, let's say you're a technology company in Silicon Valley, and you have $500 million on deposit at XYZ Bank that is rumored to be in distress. Well, remember, FDIC only covers up to a certain deposit amount, like $250,000, and FDIC is really designed to sort of protect, consumer, regular people deposits or small business deposits. Very, very large companies, especially if you're a gigantic company, you might have $1 billion of cash on your balance sheet, and you have to be very careful about where that cash is deposited, and you obviously don't want to have it vaporized, just like my restaurant customer in the bakery example. If I'm a depositor, I'm literally a creditor of that bank. So if I find out a given bank is in trouble, I might literally quickly pull my deposits just to protect me and my investors, right? In fact, in the investment world, you have a fiduciary responsibility to do that. And so it might be something that happens just spontaneously just because of the concerns. And so this is kind of the nature of financial contagion, and that's just on the deposit side, right? There's other companies that might be creditors to this bank in that they've maybe made longer term loans, or there might be loan covenants that trigger certain repayments or whatever the case may be. And banks often may have interrelations with each other. And so this is why you start to see that there might be some risk that is distributed throughout the financial system. It may not be significant, but it might be enough to make people concerned. And I think the other thing that's kind of on people's minds right now, obviously, is the great financial crisis, where you really did have distribution of distress throughout the system. And, I don't know if this doesn't seem like it's that kind of level of gravity, to be honest, that level of severity. But who knows, right? And so I think a lot of times investors, so if you imagine yourself an equity holder in a tech company that has deposits at such and such a bank, you might actually want to sell your equity because you know that this tech company might be impaired because of because of the loss of their deposits, right? Or likewise, some other bank might have some interrelationship with this bank. And so in general, you start to see movement in a lot of stock prices. And the other day, we saw a lot of, even the largest banks actually sold off 3 or 4% kind of spontaneously because of this contagion fear, right? So I guess the central ideas I want to get across here is people will shoot first and ask questions later. So they may liquidate a portion of certain holdings just to protect themselves. And of course, selling can beget more selling because other people see the selling happening, right? And then likewise, you might have people pulling deposits, and you might also have companies that have impairments and are therefore automatically less valuable because they're going to lose some of their cash because they aren't able to get their cash out of a given bank, for example. And so this second order problem is a lot of companies now will respond to this perceived risk by saying, we don't have deposits at Silvergate Bank, or we do not have any exposure to Silicon Valley Bank, or whatever the banks are, right? But then there's the third order problem, which is people will go around and look and see, okay, this company did not say that they did not have exposure to these banks, right? And then kind of assume, okay, maybe there's exposure unless proven otherwise. And so part of this is you just have to wait. You kind of have to wait and see what companies announce over time. There'll be some companies that are thought to have exposure that don't, some companies that are thought not to have exposure that do, and the stock prices are going to adjust over time, and that's just how it is. Like, there's a lot of things that are sort of obscure right now, and this is why people are a little bit probably more quick to sell than otherwise they would be. And we'll see as it settles out. Like, I don't know what the right thing is to do right now. I think in general, for me, what I usually do is I just wait and kind of wait until I know more about what's happening. And then if there is a real sell-off, I can maybe pick through the rubble after it's all over. But, I don't like to take action when I don't know what's going on. And right now, it's a little hard to know what's going on. And obviously there could be a worst case scenario that this is yet another great financial crisis. I kind of doubt it, but you never know, right? So this is sort of why you wait, and we'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, you want to understand that there's a lot of interconnection among financial companies, among companies with deposits at different financial companies, and this contagion can be more contagious, basically, for lack of a better phrase, okay? So I hope this is a thematic post, and it's not telling you, what to do or how to react. It's just to kind of understand the nature of contagion and how it will play out over time. It'll burn itself out and things will go back to normal at some point. It's just hard to know where that point will be and what to do in the meantime. And so we're in the dark, a lot of it, until this stuff gets settled out. Okay? As always, thanks for watching.